His hands were empty, and his sight was blinded in sun. His staff was rested, and malice would break all bonds and run. A villain would riot, a hero would rule, but this lone hermit was neither of two. And such was his way of the old karmic truth, he would close his eyes and become one with two. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Monk in Depth. This time we shall be looking at a new skill in detail called Tempest Rush. The format of this episode will be different, for here we shall look at the skill first and then come up with the most efficient way to use it in Diablo 3. So the former part of the video will cover the skill, but the latter would show an amazing build that lets Monk farm up to Greater Rift 33. No more walking, let's fly. Tempest Rush is Monk's one true mobility skill that allows him to traverse the sanctuary freely. This comes at a cost of spirit being channeled every second as the ability is being used. Flat numbers suggest that this costs 30 spirit, but the real cost is multiplied by one's attack speed and then expended from the spirit pool. Meaning, if your attack speed is 1 per second, you will expend 30 spirit per second, but if this were doubled, the cost too will be doubled. All this channeling is expensive and allows Monk not only to move freely but deal 390% of weapon damage. As always, the skill harbours 5 runes, each dealing elemental damage with an additional buff. Northern Breeze is the holy offering and deals most damage per spirit spent. Tailwind is mobility monsters and lets you move over the capped speed limit. Flurry packs an icy surprise in form of burst DPS, whereas Electric Field is AoE galore. The final rune is Bluster and will be the rune used in this video for the sheer reason of being most compatible with the build. Tempest Rush has always been a skill used for mobility, but with Reaper of Souls you can follow a different path. How so, you may ask? Well, by following this build. This build, called Sovereign's Charge, uses Tempest Rush as a core skill and deals damage centered around its use. But before we proceed, here are some items you'll need for this build. Your stats center around high sheet DPS of 1.5 million plus, along with moderate toughness of 7 million. It is also advised to look for life after kill and elemental resistance on secondary slots wherever possible. A few core items for this build include Sun Wukong 3-piece, Ring of Royal Grandeur, Strong Arm Braces, Hexing Pants of Mr. Yarn, Cruder's Boots and Laws of Seth. Gems to be used with this set include Taeguk and Wreath of Lightning. But to add a little bit onto it, if the luck permits, using a Cinder Coat and a War Staff of General Kwong 2 would work wonders for the build. If you wish to get an in-depth information on stat and gem usage, please follow the link to my guide provided in the description. Now let's move on to the skills. Your primary attack is replaced with Tempest Rush Bluster, and it will be your main skill. A side note here is about using the skill. Left click on an enemy and hold the button down to permanently channel the skill. Elsewise, you can use the force stop command to initiate the skill. Secondary skill is Epiphany with Desert Shroud. Next is Blinding Flash, Faith and Light, followed by Mystic Ally, Air Ally. Your semi-spammable skill come in the form of Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm and Mantra of Healing, Circular Breathing. Passives are Exalted Soul, Chant of Resonance, Beacon of Yitar and Momentum. With all this said and done, time to look at everything in detail. Tempest Rush is a skill received a change when its channeling cost was increased significantly. This was thought to be a nerf, but it's actually what makes this build work. Your first goal with this build is to be able to channel this skill indefinitely, and this task, however difficult it may seem, is very manageable. If one can conjure up to 8 spirit regen from gear, everything else is taken care of by Hexing Pants. You can not only channel your Tempest Rush indefinitely, but can also spam your mantra at the same time without the spirit pool taking any loss. And this aspect is very important as it allows your Sun Wukong set to summon clones every second at free of cost. This means that your spirit pool will be max all the time, and the spirit can then be expended by spamming Sweeping Wind and regenerated by activating your Blinding Flash, Mystic Ally and Epiphany. This makes the build similar to our previous build then, where the goal was to expend every point of spirit to summon a Sun Wukong clone. But let's look at this in a different way. A monk using this build channels free Tempest Rush that costs roughly 20 spirit and spams the mantra that costs 25. Your passive spirit regen is 46, which leaves a lot of spirit to be expended elsewhere. This is achieved by spamming yet another spell in form of Sweeping Wind, and any spirit lost in this bursting process is recovered by using Blinding Flash, Mystic Ally and Epiphany. This makes the build deal very respectable damage and is the second build that can take Monk over Greater Rift 33. Of course, the best build which was showcased in the last video can now go up to Greater Rift 41, so a final section of the video will cover the issues with the skill Tempest Rush. With the amount of spirit used for channeling such a skill, the damage dealt is not very high. With my current buff sheet DPS reaching over 2 million, the crits still stay around 7 to 10 million. Therefore, a humble suggestion from my side would be to buff the damage dealt by Tempest RoS skill. This could be changed by retweaking the skill itself or by adding a new legendary, maybe a belt, who knows. So such is our build of Sovereign's Charge. Give it a go and share your thoughts with the rest of us. It offers a unique and refreshing way to play as Monk. It is great up to Grey Rift 33, excellent for Torment 6 farming, and awesome for Bounty Bag farming. If you have any suggestions on how to improve the skill, do add your feedback in the link provided in the description. Take care of yourself and remember to close your eyes when running backwards. After all, it's just a dream.